It's October. That means it's time for a spooky story, my spooky bitches. Also partially true crime. And if you don't like either, then go back to your boring life. But let's get into it. When we first moved to Florida, little did we know we moved 20 minutes away from a house that had appeared in the original run of Unsolved Mysteries. This intriguing episode was season 4, episode 7. If you want to check it out, the whole thing centers around a man named John Harden. Apparently what happens, after 14 years of marriage and 4 kids later, John walks up into the kitchen while Rita's doing whatever, just waltzes in the kitchen and very lovingly, embraces her, lets her know gently that he has to leave. He says, I love you, but I have things I need to take care of. And now Rita doesn't mention anything about then a fight ensues or no, she's just like, all right. Okay, let's just take a minute to unpack. If that is what John actually said, something just doesn't add up there. You have to understand, this is strictly from Rita. This is not from anyone else, but this is what Rita is saying happened. That situation with anyone else would not be a loving, understanding situation. And she ends with, he said he would be back, but he never came back. Then 1 year later, John moves into a home with his new wife, Victoria. 1 year later, new wife. And as you're watching this unfold in the episode, you really do feel like you're missing something. At the time that he leaves Rita, it's 1973. In 1974, he moves to Clermont with his new wife, Victoria. So let's put John Harden on pause for a second, and let's talk about June Ferris. Allegedly, between the years 1968 and 1972, June Ferris is having very odd, repetitive dreams. She apparently dreams of a house that she's never seen. She walks down a hallway, walks down some stairs, and starts to open up a back door, and then the dream ends. She claims the last time she'd had the dream was in 1972. Back to John. John was a refrigerator repairman, and on the night of March 22nd, 1975, he receives an emergency phone call from a restaurant. The call comes in around 10 o'clock at night. He takes his 20-year-old wife and their infant child with him to this work call. He's 32, by the way. I forgot to mention that. I do find it a little odd that at 10 o'clock at night, he takes his new wife and infant son with him to the work call. Why didn't they just stay at home all nice and cozy? Allegedly, while they're gone, someone cuts their phone line. Return to the house at 10:45. Police speculate just 15 minutes later at 11 p.m., John looks through his bedroom window, sees that his work truck is on fire. John runs outside. The police speculate at about 11:08, John was shot in his chest. 11:25, he was pronounced gone. We're going back to June Ferris. June Ferris and her family move in 1978. Supposedly when they move in, they don't know anything about what had occurred in this house. So allegedly, as soon as the Ferris family moves in, they start experiencing weird occurrences. Cold spots, things moving, things turning on and off. After experiencing these weird and odd things in the house, one of the family members decided to do research on the house and found out what happened to John Harden. And then a couple of the family members claim to have seen the apparition of a man they said looks very much like Mr. John Harden. He's walking up and down the stairs, like to check in on their children, which apparently, according to his first wife, Rita, totally checks out because he was a very loving father. That was definitely John's ghost. According to the police, they never had any real suspects. People were questioned, they had their suspicions, but nothing could ever be proven. To this day, it's supposedly one of the only unsolved murders in Clermont, Florida. Which is kind of surprising because it seemed a little sloppy to me. Apparently, the weapon that was used was dropped in the bushes, but that was no help. It wasn't somebody who burglarized the house. It seemed to be someone who just wanted to get rid of him. But no one could come up with a reason why. So kind of a little weird side note that they didn't include in the Unsolved Mysteries episode. On November 3rd, 1991, a few days after the Unsolved Mysteries episode aired, John and his first wife Rita's oldest, Timothy, passed away at the age of 30. and I couldn't find anything as to what happened to him. And when you really go digging, you find out that he was kind of one of the suspects. And at the time of John's passing, his son was 13. I don't know. Angry at him for abandoning the family? That type of thing? Possibly. First, I was all about Rita. I'm like, okay, Rita. Her going on and on about how amazing he was, did not have one negative thing to say about him. Okay, maybe she doesn't, they did have 4 kids together. They had 14 years together. Maybe she's better than me and didn't hold anything against him. Okay. The more I dug, the more the second wife seemed a little sketchy. So on the same night of these ugly shenanigans with John, Victoria goes back to the restaurant that John had the job at that night and lets the owner of the restaurant know that John is gone. If they were besties or whatever, what's wrong with a phone call? It's late at night. And did she take her infant child with her? I don't know. I just got some questions about that. Apparently, Victoria never spent another night in the house. So at the time of the airing of the episode, June Ferris and her family no longer lived in the house. They sold the house to the Hatleys. Now in 1990 or 91, the Hatleys, ones who called the show, also claimed to have had some experiences in that house. The episode aired November 3rd, 1991. The Hatleys claim in 1992, everything stopped. No more supernatural, paranormal occurrences, nothing. Done. That's it for today's spooky true crime story. Most of my usual content is food and travel. Let me know if you want to hear more stories. If you enjoyed this in any way, shape, or form, why don't you go ahead and hit that like button for me. Toodles!